it's important to take a look at a few key terms that we're going to be seeing within that section. The first one is page view. A page view in Google AdSense is when a page with one or more AdSense ad units is viewed by a user on a website. In other words, when a visitor accesses a page on your website that has at least one AdSense ad on it. An impression is when an ad unit on a website returns an advertisement. It's important to understand that with one page view, you can have multiple ad impressions. So if a user visits your website and you have 3 AdSense ads on one page, that's going to be one page view, but 3 impressions. Clicks are pretty straightforward. It's when a user clicks on an advertisement in a Google AdSense ad unit. A click is then recorded, and then we'll see that in the performance reports. Click-through rate is the ratio of clicks a particular ad on a website receives in comparison to the total number of impressions it has received. So for example, if you receive 100 impressions on a certain advertisement and that was clicked one time, your click-through rate is going to be 1%. Cost per click, also known as CPC, is the amount of money paid by an advertiser for each click an ad receives in a Google AdSense ad unit. So every time somebody clicks on an ad on your website, an advertiser is paying a certain amount of money for that specific click. When we take a look at performance reports within AdSense, we can see what our average cost per click is. Revenue per thousand impressions, or RPM, is the average amount of revenue earned by a publisher for 1,000 impressions on a particular ad unit or website. I've talked about this term earlier on in the course, but I think it's really important because this to me is the best metric that I use to measure the performance of my Google AdSense advertisements. Estimated earnings. Estimated earnings is the total amount of revenue earned by a publisher regardless of the number of impressions. So as we take a look at the Google AdSense performance reports, you might look at a monthly view of our performance. If we take a look at the estimated earnings in that report, we'll be seeing the estimated earnings for that month. If we look at the daily view, we'll only be seeing the estimated earnings for that day, which again is important because it's how much money that you're earning. Ad requests. Ad requests refer to the total number of times an ad unit on a particular website requests Google AdSense to serve a relevant and related advertisement. In other words, every time a user goes to a page on your website that has an ad unit, the ad unit is requesting Google AdSense to put an advertisement inside of it. Hopefully, as we'll talk about with the next term, every time you request an advertisement to be served, one appears on your website. The reason I said that is because the term coverage refers to the percentage of ad requests in which a relevant and related advertisement is found and displayed within the ad unit. So if every time an ad unit requests an advertisement from AdSense, an advertisement is actually placed within the ad unit, your coverage is going to be 100%. And that's really what you want. You don't want an ad unit to request an advertisement and nothing to be found to put inside of that ad unit. That means you might need some additional keywords, or you may have to tweak the title of your page so that Google can more easily find a relevant advertisement to display on your web page. Also, remember that there's a handout with this course that has a number of definitions on it, so you can go ahead and print out that sheet and keep it next to you as we go into the performance report section here in Google AdSense. In this section of the course, we're going to talk about the performance of ads displayed on our website. So we've gone ahead and we've added some sample data into our account. As you can see, we're still on the Google AdSense homepage, but with data now in our account, this homepage turns into a dashboard where we can get a bird's eye view at some of the activity within our AdSense account. We can see our earnings for the current day, as well as our earnings for the current month and last month. We can also compare our earnings from this month to last month. As we move down the page, we can get a bit more detailed information as to today's performance. We can see the number of page views we've received, what our RPM is for today, and again, that's one of my favorite metrics to use here in Google AdSense. You can see which countries are earning the most revenue for your site and the top platforms that users are using to access your website. So without even going into the performance reports section of AdSense, we can get a quick overview of our current day's performance and see how well we're doing with our Google AdSense advertisements. To view performance reports for how your Google AdSense advertisements are performing on your website, go ahead and click on the Performance Reports tab at the top of your Google AdSense homepage. When we first access the Performance Reports tab, we're brought to the default report in the My Reports section, as you can see on the left side of the screen. I'm going to go over this area of performance reports shortly, but first let's access the performance reports dashboard by clicking on Dashboard in the left sidebar. The dashboard section in performance reports is similar to the dashboard on the Google AdSense homepage, but it features some additional information and charts. As you can see right off the bat, we can see our estimated earnings, page views, and RPM for the last 7 days. We can change the date range that we'd like to view by using the button on the top right of the page. We can click on each of the 3 tabs to pull up a graphical chart related to that particular data. For example, if I click on the Page Views tab, the chart now adjusts to show data regarding page views. If I scroll down the page, additional information is available regarding page views, such as how many page views we've received from each country. Again, this area is very similar to the AdSense homepage dashboard, but it is a little more rich in the data that it offers. Let's move back over to the My Reports section by clicking on My Reports and then Default Report. Notice that the first numbers we see are actually total numbers for the date range we've selected. So for the dates May 11th to May 17th, we can see the total estimated earnings, page views, and so forth. Also, notice that we have some information displayed in a line graph format. Right now, the only information that's showing up on our graph is the estimated earnings, and we can tell that because we have a blue line on our graph, and we also have a blue line underneath estimated earnings. If we wanted to also view another piece of information, such as page views on our line graph, we could click on Page Views. You'll now notice that the color red appears under page views and a red line appears on our graph. So this is a great way to get a graphical view of your AdSense performance. We can also take a look at the bottom of our page where we can see that the information is still grouped by day, but it's in table format. So we can see the specific data for Monday, May 16th, Tuesday, May 17th, and so forth. Now at some point you might want to change up the range of dates that you're looking at, and you can do so by going back up to the top right of the page and clicking on the drop-down menu that currently says Last 7 Days. From here, we have a number of quick date options that we could use. We could just look at statistics from today, from yesterday, the last 7 days, and so forth. Also, on the left side of this box, we have the option to specify a custom date range. So let's say we wanted to look at all of the statistics just from this year. We could go ahead and click on the first field here, and then we could change the date to January 1st. Once I hit Apply, you can see that the information is still grouped by day, as we can see in our line chart, as well as our table down here at the bottom, but we have a lot more data to work with. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of this table, you'll notice that we have some averages and totals that we can take a look at. I mentioned earlier in the course that in order to gauge how much money you're going to make from Google AdSense, you need to have a base RPM number to go by. So we can take a look at this field right here, and if we scroll to the top, we'll see that this is the page RPM, so that's how much money you're making per 1,000 page views on your website. So for us this year, that number is $2.98, and we can also take a look over here at the average number of page views that we receive each day, which is 17,562, and we could do the math and we could figure out how much money that we're averaging per day by multiplying $2.98 by 17.562. Now, I would like to mention that the sample data that we're using includes data from a YouTube account, and oddly enough, views for YouTube accounts show up in this section, but estimated earnings don't. So the number that you see on my screen may be a bit off, but if you're using AdSense for websites, the data will be completely accurate. Now, that being said, by doing the math on those two numbers, you can get a better idea of how much money you're going to make in the future. But you do have to have some data to work with in order for that math to work. Now, at the same time, since we're looking at such a wide date range, instead of looking at all of this data by day, we could also look at this data from a weekly view. We can go back up to the top, and we can take a look over to the right side of our screen, and we could click on the Week button. In this view, we're still looking at the same date range, January 1st to May 17th, but in our line graph, we're seeing that information grouped by week instead of day. Later on in the course, we're going to take a look at sorting and filtering data in these reports a bit more, but I'd like to mention that Google has created a number of default reports that are available for you to use, and they can be accessed in the left sidebar of this page. If we click on Common Reports, you'll see a number of reports that you can access, and they'll be displayed in the same format as the one we're looking at now. If we click on Advanced Reports, additional reports will appear for us to access. For example, we can click on the Add Types link, and information is now displayed showing us the percentage of revenue that we're earning from each ad type. It may be a good idea to explore the performance report section of AdSense at this point to become a bit more comfortable with where everything is located and how the data is presented. In the last video, we took a look at the Performance Reports section of Google AdSense, and we saw some basic information such as page views and estimated earnings. In this video, we're going to take a more detailed look at our performance reports, and I'm going to show you how you can filter some information out. So let's go ahead and head back to the Performance Reports section of Google AdSense. And from here, I actually want to take a look at a broader range of information. So I'm going to change my date filter in the top right corner to last month so that we have a whole month's worth of data. When I do that, you can see that we have all the basic information that we saw in the last video, but let's move over to the left side of our screen where we have our filters. So we're going to access the Common Reports section, and then I'm going to click on Countries. Now I'm going to scroll down to the table view here. Now I want to look for which countries are earning me the most AdSense revenue per view, not necessarily the most overall. So I'm going to sort the data by page RPM. We can see that there are a number of countries at the top of this list with a very high RPM. It appears, however, that based on the low number of page views, as you can see over here to the left, that we might not have enough data to know for certain that these RPM trends will continue in the future. It is something to keep an eye on, however. We may want to tailor some more of our content for visitors in these countries and hope that the RPM rates stay the same, but with an increased number of page views. We can see that the US visitors are earning us an average of about $3 per thousand views. Not bad, not necessarily great though. One thing that stands out to me that I saw earlier, if I scroll down, if you look at the United Kingdom, we do have quite a few page views from the United Kingdom. We have 4,000 page views, but the RPM rate is 69 cents, which is really low, especially when you compare it to countries like Australia and the United States. That being said, from a revenue perspective, we may want to tailor more of our content for the US and other countries towards the top of this list and less content to UK visitors. Obviously, this depends on the topic of your site and the leeway that you have in creating new content, but it's definitely something to think about. Now let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's scroll back up here, and if we take a look at Germany, we don't have a ton of page views for Germany, but we do have close to 500, and they have a pretty high RPM rate. So to dig a little bit deeper, let's go ahead and click right on Germany. By doing this, I can see that all of the revenue that we've earned from German visitors was on the same day. And if I click on the Clicks tab, we can see that both of those clicks were also on the same day. This may be random, but there may also be a reason behind it. Did I share something on social media on that day that led more German visitors to my site? Did I publish a blog post on that day that was tailored more for German visitors? These are some of the things that AdSense can't tell us directly, but it can provide the data for us to help draw these cause and effect conclusions. So I would like to share a neat little trick with you all, and that is the ability to add notes to your AdSense reports. As I mouse over this line chart, you'll notice that there's a plus symbol at the bottom, and if I click on it, a pop-up will appear where I can add a note. So I can say, published a blog post tailored for German citizens. So I did publish a blog post on that day for German citizens, and I'm assuming that's why I got some German visitors on that day and got 2 clicks on my advertisements. So if I click save, you'll notice that if we scroll down a little bit now, we have a note listed here, and it's the one that I just added saying that I shared an article on that day. Now, remember, you're not just limited to looking at the data by country with these filters. You can go over here to the Common Reports and use any of the ones that you've got available. And then in Advanced Reports, definitely remember to use the Custom Channels report, the URL channels report, and if you are using multiple sites with your AdSense account, you can take a look at the own sites report and you can compare and contrast the data between the different sites that you're running AdSense on. So as you can see, using the filters on the left side of your screen here in the Performance Report section of Google AdSense allows you to drill down to a more detailed view of the performance of your ads and improve and optimize your ads for the future to increase your overall revenue. Hopefully by now, you can see the value that can be gained by taking a look at the performance reports here in AdSense. In this video, I'm going to take it one step further and make looking at all of that data a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and head back over to the performance report section here in AdSense. Now, let's say Every day, I want to know how my website has performed on the previous day for visitors from the United States. What I can do is I can actually narrow down my data to the view that I want to save as a custom report. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Common Reports, and I'm going to click on Countries, and I'm going to find the United States and click on the United States. Now at the top right of my screen, you'll see that there's a blue button that says Add to my reports. To save this as a custom report, I'm just going to click on this button. I need to give this report a name, so I'll just call it Yesterday's US Performance. And I definitely want this report to run automatically. And I want this report to run every day. And I want it to run for the last day, so for yesterday. And I'm just going to have it shared with the email address that's associated with my AdSense account. And when I'm ready, I can go ahead and click Save. Now, every day, I'll get an email with this report regarding the performance of visits from US visitors from the previous day. At the same time, if I'm already in Google AdSense and I want to view this report, I can just head on over to the left side of my screen and click on the report that says Yesterday's US Performance. Obviously, I'm already in that report right now, so that won't change anything, but this definitely makes it easier and increases your efficiency when you're taking a look at your AdSense performance reports. As we've been talking about the performance reports section of Google AdSense, there's been one metric that I haven't yet mentioned, and I do want to mention it in this video, and that is the active view viewable metric, as you can see on the right side of my screen. So right now I'm in the performance reports section of Google AdSense, and I just have the default report pulled up. And what this metric means is, it means what percentage of your advertisements are viewable to the user for at least more than 1 second. Now, this is a really important metric because it deals with where you're placing the ads on your website. If all of your ads are towards the bottom of your website and most users never scroll that far down, then you're going to have a very low percentage of active view viewable, which means that a very low percentage of users that access your website are actually seeing the advertisement, which is going to result in fewer clicks and less revenue. So we can see that for our sample data, about 77% of our ads are actively viewable, which is not too bad. But let's drill down a little bit further because I want to show you how you can use this metric to determine which ad units are being most successful, at least in terms of the viewers seeing them on your website. So right now I'm in the default report, but I'm going to move over here to the left side of my screen and I'm going to click on Common Reports and I'm going to click on Ad Units. Now with our sample data, we've got a number of different ad units that are being displayed in our website. You can see them in the chart right here. But if we scroll down to this table at the bottom, we have the table view of our ad units, and we can see, again, impressions, clicks, RPM, but then we also have the active view viewable metric here as well. So we can see with these specific ad units, what percentage of them are viewable for at least 1 second when a user accesses a page that they're located on. So we've got a couple that are at 60%, but then there's this one right here that's only at 48%. So seeing that only 48% of my visitors that access a page with this ad unit on it are actually seeing the ad unit, I may want to think about repositioning that ad unit on my site so that it gets more views, hopefully more clicks, and in turn more revenue. This is a relatively new feature of Google AdSense that they provide this metric, so it's definitely important to make use of it. It can really help you create ad units and place those ad units on your site in more effective locations to earn more revenue here in AdSense. As you begin to use Google AdSense more and more, there may come a time when you need to export data from your Google AdSense account into Excel or a similar program. It's very easy to do. All you need to do is access the Performance Reports section of Google AdSense, which is where I'm at right now, and then pull up the data that you want to export. So right now I'm just looking at the default report, but I could drill down to a different one of these common reports or one of the advanced reports to pull up the data that I want to export. When I'm ready to export the data, I can just navigate to the top right of the page, and you'll see this button next to the Add to My Reports button that's a downward pointing arrow. And if I click on that, you can see that I can export the data to Excel via a CSV file, or I could also export it to Google Drive if I wanted to. So when I click to export to Excel, you'll notice that it just downloads a CSV file, and I could open that up. I'm not going to open it up in Excel right now, but you can see it opens up in Numbers here on my computer, and I've got a table with all of the data that I was viewing here in Google AdSense. So that is a real simple way to export the performance report data from your AdSense account into another program like Excel or Numbers.